welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about Pam Barnhill's Plan Your Year program. This is a program that used to be online and with an ebook, but it has been completely revamped, and now she has it in a physical book with the worksheets that you will use to plan your year. This is a program that is sort of like an overall helping you work through what your homeschool vision is, goals for the year, what your homeschool philosophy is, how you're going to plan. It really is an entire program. It's not, to me, the same as a homeschool planner, like we talked about the Erin Condren Teacher Planner. For that, weekly, I write out my lessons, what we're planning on doing for the week, from the resources that I have laid out for the year. So she does talk about how to plan out your lessons, and I do tend to use sort of the same system. She talks a lot about lists instead of assigning specific things to specific days. So yeah, let's get into it. Now, when you first start out homeschooling, you want to have some sort of a vision statement, why you're homeschooling, what the purpose is of your homeschool, what you want your kids to learn, all of that stuff. And so Pam goes through how to create a vision statement, listing out objectives and trying to have an overall understanding of what you want for each of your children. And then she moves right into goal setting. Now, for goals, you have to look at the individual child, and you also have to look at who you are as a teacher. It's easy to say, I want my kids to go on nature walks every day, but if you hate being outside, it's not obviously going to be a good goal to have. You need to sort of work within your strengths. I'm not saying don't go outside, but that, you know what I mean. So the first few chapters are really about sort of understanding your homeschool as a whole. What is your vision? What are your goals? What is your homeschool philosophy? Are you an unschooler? Do you want to follow your child's interests? Are you more interested in literature-based or classical homeschooling? Do you focus on activities? All kinds of information. And she has a lot of different examples in this book that you can go through. After you have an understanding of what your homeschool philosophy is and how you're going to be teaching your kids, then you are able to figure out what kind of a schedule you want. Are you going to be doing year-round homeschooling, which is what we do? It sort of helps us to take off when we need to, because we know we need 175 days in the year, and that 180 days works out to 15 days a month. So we can sort of pick and choose where we want our days to be. You can run a traditional schedule, September to May, and take off a big break in the summer. They have all kinds of different options: 4-day-a-week school, 6 weeks on, 1 week off throughout the year. Whatever you want to do it's really up to you. And so she goes through all of those options, and then she turns to how you want to structure your year, when you want to teach the subjects, how often you want to teach the subjects. You can split things into terms. You can do block scheduling where you're working on a specific subject for a specific period of time and then switch to something new. Like maybe we tend to do a science intensive summer, so we do a lot of our science in the summer, and then the rest of the year we do history and geography and other things. We do still do some science during the rest of the year, but our main study is during the summer for science. She has lots of different options on how you're going to schedule out your day and different examples. Let me see if I can get this. You're not really going to be able to see it, but so she has, daily plans. If you plan to do math every day and spelling on one day, grammar on another day. She also has an example of a block schedule. And then she talks a lot about loop schedules as well. Loop scheduling is where you have a list of subjects and an allotted time that you do that loop. And when the time is done, you close up your books and you wait until the next day. And then the next day, you start at the next thing on your list. Now, I think you could certainly combine a lot of these different areas based on your particular homeschool and your children and obviously yourself. She does talk a lot about making sure that you build in margin, because there's never going to be a perfect homeschool day. No matter how hard we try as moms, there's always going to be little interruptions or large interruptions that happen throughout the day, and making sure that you have the margin built into your rhythm to deal with those is super important. I know Jen McIntosh from, was it wildflowersandmarbles.com, I believe, she schedules 4 days a week so that fifth day is, leftover. Anything that they missed, they can sort of catch up on Fridays. So that is one option. Or building in, like 6 weeks on, 1 week off, which a lot of people call Sabbath schooling, so that you have that week for planning and just sort of reorganizing to move into your next term. And then she moves into lesson planning, and she has a couple of different kinds of lesson plans that she suggests. One is a procedures list where you write out what you're going to do on a broad scale for a particular subject. So you know that every time you study X, you are going to do these 4 activities with it. And so once you've moved through those activities, you can move on. If you only get to 2 of the 4 activities on Monday, you can do the following 2 activities the next day. It doesn't set you back when you don't finish the list. So she does a lot with lists so that you can just move on to the next thing and the days don't mess you up. I know a lot of times we use Sunlight for a large majority of our program, but what happened was I was really struggling to stay within their grid where they have everything listed out for you. The instructor's guides, it's pretty much open and go, and you can follow the list. I am not so good at following that grid and making sure we do, we're going to read 10 pages of this book and then 3 pages of this book, and then we're going to do an activity. I kind of base it on how my kids are doing. So if we're doing a read aloud and it calls for 10 pages, but the kids want me to read 3 chapters, I'm most likely going to read 3 chapters. And then we're ahead, but we don't have enough time to do comprehension questions until later, or narration, or something else. So a long time ago, I had to figure out how to utilize the instructor's guide without it holding me back. I didn't like moving on to a new week and seeing that I still had some activities from Thursday and Friday from the previous week that I had not completed. And so when Pam puts her homeschool plan together, she has this list that she works from, so you're just moving to the next thing. A good example of that would be with math. You go through the lesson, you go through the problems, and if your child understands it, you move on. If they don't understand it, you get some more problems and work on it until they have an understanding of that concept, and then you can move forward. You don't just finish those problems and they have no idea and you move to the next lesson, because obviously in math it all builds on each other, so you can't just forget addition and move right on to multiplication and division. So she talks about a procedures list for specific subjects, and then just a simple list of what you're going to want to work through for the year. She does have an entire chapter on planning your own lesson studies. I know a lot of homeschoolers utilize the resources and curriculum available to us and then sort of tweak it to make sure that it works for our families. If you want to build something from scratch, she has a whole chapter on how you can do that. And it's pretty in-depth so that you can go through and say, okay, these are the objectives, this is what I want to cover, these are the resources, and this is how you plan it out. And then sort of an end date, what needs to be accomplished in order for you to feel as though you've finished that particular topic. So the last couple of chapters are all about organizing your homeschool materials and figuring out where you're going to homeschool in your home, how to keep everything sort of in check, how to store books, and really just understanding that you can homeschool everywhere and anywhere. It doesn't matter if you have a specific room to homeschool in. And oftentimes when you have a homeschool room, you don't homeschool in the room. We do have a room, an office, that everybody has a desk and they can sit down and do their work. Oftentimes, my kids will go do their work on the couch, or they will sit at the dining room table, or they will be laying on the floor. It really is open, but it is where we store our stuff. One of the things that I really liked about this book was a whole section by Misty Winkler about homeschool planners for your personality type. I am a huge Myers-Briggs, Enneagram, Gretchen Rubin for tendencies, any sort of personality test. I really enjoy deep diving on that. So it was fun to sort of look through and see the different types, the Myers-Briggs types, and the type of homeschool planner that you might be and what you might need to use for homeschool planning. She does go through the pros and cons of a few different types of planners, a print your own like in a binder, or a spiral bound homeschool planner, similar to like the Erin Condren teacher planner, or like a well-planned day, or there's an ultimate homeschool planner as well. And then also online planning systems. I am not an online planner. I need the physical act of writing out the stuff, so I don't actually know of any off the top of my head, but I know that there are some. I'll have to see if I can find a couple and leave them in the comment in the description box. And then she also talks about like a bullet journal where you make everything your own from scratch and sort of do all of your own layouts. And then she does talk about how to keep track of the work that your kids do and just make sure that everything is organized. I keep a lot of the work in bins in my attic. I did write an entire series on putting together a homeschool portfolio. I will leave a link in the description for that. And then finally, it's just how to communicate with your kids what the plan is. Several years ago, Sarah Mackenzie wrote a great blog post about using spiral notebooks for her kids. So each day she just writes down in each child's spiral notebook what their tasks are for the day, and they can check them off. And it's easy. It takes very little time. I do something similar to that, but I do use these weekly at-a-glance sheets. So Monday through Friday are all on one page, and it's well-defined boxes. So what I noticed would happen if I use a spiral notebook is that I would make a very long list that my kids most likely would not be able to fully get through. So if I have a well-defined space that is designated for a specific day, I have to make sure that I only list stuff that can fit in that box. But that has worked really well for us the past couple of years. I will leave a link to what I use for my kids' scheduling. And each morning I just write out their list. They check it off throughout the day, and we had a really successful year this year. Everything that I wanted to get done got done, which is not always the case. It hasn't been the case in the past because I had a toddler, but Lucy was a little bit easier to handle this year, being, 4 years old. So we're moving in the right direction where she's able to do a little bit independently as well, and let me have some time with the older two to get their work done. I think that this book is really great if you're a new homeschooler or if you have been sort of flailing and don't have a consistent system right now for how to plan out your homeschool year. I don't necessarily feel like I plan everything to a T before our year starts. I almost exclusively plan seasonally, based on how the kids are doing. I do plan a few things fully for the year. We have a math program, I expect them to finish it. We have a spelling program, I expect them to finish it. But everything else is much more fluid. I'm not bothered if we don't get to the end of a book by a specific time. Part of that reason is because we school year round, and so when we take a break, and then we just sort of pick up where we've left off. I never have a date where I say, okay, this is when we have finished all of our school and we're moving on to the next level in everything. It sort of ebbs and flows. Like this year, the kids finished their math curriculum in March. And our last day was not until the third week in April. So we did some other stuff for math because I do want them to continue practicing math mostly daily. Their spelling curriculum, we started it later in the season, and so they have a few more weeks. And even though we have been on break technically for the month of May, they still will come back and finish that before they move on to new books, the next level. I think this is a really great program, and there also is more in-depth programs on Pam's website. She has a self-guided Put Your Homeschool on Autopilot course, which is 10 modules taking you what I believe is through this entire book, through video modules and going through it and working through all the different worksheets that she has at the end of each chapter. Let me see if I can find some. So she has these worksheets at the end of each chapter, which you can cut out of this and make as many copies as you want. She also offers a digital PDF version of these worksheets and a community on her website that you can get for like lifetime access to the forms. And then she also offers an intensive Put Your Homeschool on Autopilot course that I believe it's 2 Saturdays in June, maybe the end of June, where this is 2019 right now, where you go through it live with her on these 2 Saturdays. You have to be there for those 2 Saturdays and work through. And at the end of those 2 days, you'll have your full homeschool year planned out. I will have all of that information below in the description box for you. I think that regardless of how you plan your homeschool year, this is a great resource to sort of look at the individual planning course of study section where she describes how to create your own lessons like from the ground up is a really good reference. And I also think that her all of the different personality information and how to organize your school days and weeks, that is all really great reference material for you to refer back to even as a seasoned homeschooler. This is our 9th year, and reading some of this stuff and having it in one place is very helpful for me. Like I said, I think you will probably need another planner where you write down your lessons for the year, unless you are working primarily off of like a Word document list. I think you would have to do maybe 4 to 6 weeks at a time and have those in a binder so that you can refer to them. I think it would be maybe a little overwhelming if you list all of, 36 weeks of plans for each particular subject all together. That might be a little a little bit much. But this book is for sale now. You can get it on Amazon or you can get it from her website, and she does have a package where you can get the book and the PDF files for the worksheets, as well as become a member of that community. And like I said, I will leave all of that information below. If you have any questions, please let me know. This is not a sponsored video, but I will try and find out the information for you as soon as I can. Thanks. Bye.